Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading property experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, and Ben Kingsley, chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the 2014 and 2015 Property Investment Advisors of the Year.
All right, folks, you're on the Property Couch. Each week, Ben and I bring you the insider's guide to property, finance, and money management. Hello, Ben.
Mate, I'm tearing up.
I know.
This is like it's the last episode of the summer series.
Well, I've got some good news for you, mate.
What's that?
Whilst you're tearing up, get the box of tissues out because you could sit back on your recliner tonight.
That was me blowing my nose.
On the recliner tonight,
Yep.
Tune into ABC,
Oh.
8 p.m. It's my first episode of Escape from the City,
Oh,
where I
very
visit
good.
the wonderful town of Toowoomba.
Oh, yes.
So it's
the world premiere of Bryce on Escape from the City.
Yeah, fifth episode for the series. It started with Jane back on the 3rd of January, Ben, and now I get a turn. So if anyone is enjoying the summer series, listening to it, and they want to tune in tonight, 8 p.m.
I promise I'll try.
Yeah, that's right. All right, but I wonder if our very special guest, Ben, has got the auntie,
Got
the
time.
ABC, the national broadcaster, to maybe check it out. But let's get on to more important things. Let's welcome our guest today, Lindsay. Hello, welcome to the Property Couch.
Hi guys, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being on. You're another one of our brave souls who's put their hand up and said, "Yep, let me tell my story. Let me share what I've been doing with my money background to see if there's any lessons and learning in that." That was we appreciate that. Is there any particular reason why you thought that you would be happy to put your hand up and share?
I don't know that there's a specific reason, but I think it boils down to the fact that I've been listening to you guys for a long time now, and wanted to give back a little bit to you. You've given me a lot, either through been listening to you guys for a while now and picked up plenty of gold. So I wanted to come on and do my bit, help you guys out.
Beautiful. Well, so let's give a little bit of your backstory. 33, a father of a 9-month-old baby boy.
You are busy.
You are busy. You're
right.
living in Sydney, but you're commuting down to Port Kembla for work as a material engineer. So from that point of view, life's busy, and that's sort of probably where we want to start the story in terms of having a look at some of the bio there. Tell us, your money behaviour as a child, and because there's a bit of that backstory in there, which I think is good for the listeners to get a sense of. So you were fascinated by money when you were young. How did that fascination start?
I think it probably started just through the weekly pocket money that myself and my sisters would receive on a Saturday. We'd bug Dad, is it pocket money time yet? Is it pocket money time yet? And he'd cave eventually. And,
Did you have to do any chores for your pocket money, or was it just it was just a set wage that you got each week?
No, there was some chores involved. Take out the bins, do the washing up, feed the pets, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And I think if we were really in need of some cash, the car was always due for a wash, so that one would be an extra $5 when we could do it.
Oh, very good.
But when I was a kid, I don't know exactly what it was about money, but I was fascinated by it, and to the point where I'd fashion my own money boxes out of large soft drink containers and this sort of thing. I don't know if mates were a bit scarce at the time or something, but just found enjoyment out of thinking about money and even watching it grow. So think of a clear 2-litre soft drink bottle. I'd cut a hole in the top as a little coin slot, and I'd try and put 5 cents in every day. And this is as like a 7 or 8 year old, I guess.
Wow.
So that, I'm not still doing that, but...
But what about the principle of being a saver? Are you still a saver?
Well, yeah, I am. So I enjoy saving. I love watching money grow, and I like the idea of the different avenues that allow you to grow your money faster. So whether it's through property or pointed investment through superannuation or even outside of both of those vehicles, it's something which is always towards the front of my mind, and it's something which on a daily basis I'm thinking about.
And so your folks, how good were they as money managers?
Fairly good, I would say. So for probably the first 8 or 10 years of my life, I'm the youngest of 3 kids. My mum was a stay-at-home mum, and then picked up work once I was sort of old enough to walk to and from school.
Yep.
So a bit of a dual income from about the age of 10 or so, I'd guess.
Yep.
And my dad is also an engineer and good with numbers and the like. I don't think that there was ever the real sit down, have a conversation solely about money. It was more about observing their actions with money and that sort of thing. I would say that they're good money managers, but at the same time, I've never really had the full disclosure, if you like, as to exactly what it was like week to week or month to month.
So were they investing outside of, like, were you aware, did they buy any properties? Were they investing in shares outside of super or anything like that, or more they were just, good with their money? They had a good savings. They paid their mortgage off. What do you sort of have any insights into that?
Yeah, so I remember probably when I was 12 to 14 or so, Mum and Dad were purchasing a couple of investment properties. So that was now about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I remember driving around in the back seat of the car while they're looking at a few properties and that sort of thing. So that was something which, looking back at it now, I'm sure has some sort of influence on me. It's only been recently that they've sold those properties, and they've obviously had a fair bit of success with it.
So did they buy in their own backyard? It sounds like it, because if you're in the back of the car, it sounds like they didn't shop too far away from home. Give us an idea of how far the properties were from where you lived.
I wouldn't have said that they were borderless investors, but
they were suburbless.
yeah, potentially. So we grew up, or we were living at the time in the southern suburbs of Sydney, and then their investment properties were down in Wollongong.
Okay, down the gong.
So just down the freeway, yeah.
How did that background help you because you've bought your first investment property in Wollongong in 2011? How did that affect your state of mind when you went to do it? Because a lot of people buy their first one, it's nervous because they might be a pioneer within their family tree of doing it. You weren't a pioneer in your family tree, so how did that play out for you?
Well, that played out in a couple of ways, I guess. So we've mentioned at the start of the show that I am working in Port Kembla, so I had been living in Wollongong for a year or two prior to purchasing that property, and when I purchased it, it was my PPOR, so I lived in it for the next 5 years or so. So it wasn't necessarily a sole investment at the time, but I knew that hanging on to it would be a good thing in the long run. Mm-hmm. So when I was going through the decision-making process of selecting what was the PPR at the time, I was still thinking about how close is it to the train line, or how close is it to the centre of town? Can you still walk to the beach, and this sort of thing? And thankfully, I found one which ticks those boxes, certainly for me, and I was able to stay there for 5 years. But now it's been rented out for the last 2 years, and really helping us along in our current situation. Which
is a good news story, because your current situation is you're looking to be rent investors, and obviously we know we've got the 6-year rule on that property, which means that our work and life has taken us away from that living zone. So ultimately you'll be allowed to enjoy any capital growth and lock that capital growth away, even if you don't sell the property. We've just got to make sure that we get that property valued after that 6-year period, which is good. So you've decided you're living in Sydney. You've got an aspirational goal of moving up to the coast with the most, up to the Gold Coast for a lifestyle change, because we know the grind, right? So tell us a bit about the daily grind that you're experiencing now whilst living in Sydney.
Yeah, well, the daily commute for me, it's probably an hour door to door from my place to work, which is fairly common in Sydney, and many people have it worse. But it's even the stuff on the weekends, which is really getting to us. So where we're living, we remember growing up, and it might take 15 minutes to drive to the beach. Now it takes 45 minutes or an hour once you factor in parking, this sort of thing.
Yep.
So the proximity hasn't changed, but the grind, as you say, certainly has, and it's just choking the city. So we're hoping to realise a move up to, as you say, the coast with the most, and be a little bit closer, a little less congested, and relax into what is really the start of our family's life together. So we got married in 2016, my beautiful wife and I, and have since welcomed our baby boy Jed in February last year. And we just want to be able to build the happy, relaxing lifestyle that we want, and we see the Gold Coast as helping us do that.
Very good. Now, tell us a little bit about your money management. You're a good saver, but what has that meant in terms of organising your money and trapping surplus? What's your score out of 10?
Current score is pretty low, unfortunately, and that's really coming back to probably the last couple of years of our journey. So the surplus that we're trapping at the moment, it's not going to shoot the lights out or anything like that. And again, that's part of the move up the coast. But we're paying a lot in rent at the moment, having moved from what was the PPOR. So that rent takes out, a fair chunk of the income. And my wife is staying at home with our son, so we're on just the one income. So with all of that going on, I don't want to be managing every individual bill here and there. So to automate the system along the lines of the Money Smarts has just given me a lot of sort of free mental capacity, if you like. I don't have to spend my time thinking about, when's that credit card bill due, or when's the power bill due, all of this, because it's all automated and the bank accounts talk to each other. So the bank account auto sweep pays off the credit card. Prior to listening to the podcast and getting the downloadable flyer a couple of years ago, I had a separate bank for my credit card that I did for the offset account in my home loan. So I was having to do the monthly check-in to say, okay, when's this due? Got to pay it. What's the transfer delay between one bank to another? Can I pay it this day, or does it have to be 3 days before, or anything like that? Now that I've implemented the system, I can just relax knowing that I've set up the direct payments. They're all going to take care of themselves. I've set up the auto sweep so that the credit card's never going to be late, and all of the income just goes straight into my offset account, which is always working for me, every night, as you say, Ben, it's going to be reducing that interest bill.
Yeah, well done. Lindsay, can I ask, in terms of the Money Smarts, how well would you be following that? Are you following it at all, mainly, some? How would you describe that?
I'd describe it as probably 80-20, I would say. So the fundamentals are certainly there, but my wife and I have separate living and lifestyle accounts to each other. So we like to have our own allowance that we can spend however we choose.
Yep.
And additional part of that is because we both buy groceries, either the weekly or the top-up through the week. So we even have a separate groceries account. So there's probably a few places where it's not an exact replica of the Money Smart system, but all of the principles, we still follow those.
Because that's the point that I wanted to make, right? Because I asked you how you would, out of 10, and you said low, and then as you started to describe what you were doing, I would have said high, because it's not the measure out of 10 from our perspective is not, are you trapping 1,000 versus someone who's trapping 2,000 versus someone who's trapping $100, right? The measure of success is around, are you following the process? Because the other bits fall into place. because some people just have bigger capacities and bigger income, which means they can trap more surplus. So if we're going to measure that, you're never going to stack up against someone who's on a massive income. But I can assure you, from a lot of the discussions that Ben and I have with clients in our business, we've said it a few times now, but it's worth repeating, that we have people on 500,000, 900,000, and ask them the question about where their money goes, and they go, I don't know.
It raises a good point. I mean, and we mentioned that in the book, that we talk about what's the best surplus to trap, and we said $1 or more, because if your circumstances are single wage, renting, commuting, working towards a medium to longer term plan, your surplus is going to change tomorrow when Alex eventually gets back on the tools and goes to work. So, this concept of trying to do, say, a 20, 30, 50, so that's one of the budgeting concepts that's out there, where you save 20, 30% for mortgages and so forth, and then 50% for living costs. It doesn't always work out that way, right? Because your circumstances are, for now, that you've got the single income, but when you go to double household income, effectively that Alex's wage is all surplus, because you've been able to trap that and live within your means based on your current circumstance. And I think that's the point, Bryce highlighted beautifully there, is that if you just follow the rules of the system, you've done it, you've organised your money really well. And I also noticed in here that you talked about you like the provisional aspect, so the provisioning aspect of Money Smarts. Do you want to share with us a little bit about how you use the provisioning side of things, the provisioning jar?
Yeah, sure. So, and thanks for the reassurance there as well. I guess I can be limited in looking at what is the surplus at the end of the month, as opposed to just following the rules and letting it all happen.
And the reason I pointed that out is because it's a message for the listeners. If you're following the process, you're a 10 out of 10 manager, not how much is at the end of the month.
No, that's good, thanks. But to come to Ben's question about the provisioning jars, I really like it, because it's something which you can somewhat forecast how much you're going to spend on gifts throughout the year, or health insurance if it's a monthly thing, or a yearly thing, or even medical appointments and holidays and that sort of stuff. But it's obviously not something which happens weekly. So to build in from the outset that you want to have, whether it's a holiday a year, or whether you want to make sure Christmas is fantastic for the family, or whatever it is, you put it in at the outset, and then you have that knowledge throughout the entire year that I've already planned for this. I don't need to worry about exactly where the money's coming from come December, because I've been putting it away for the last 12 months. So it's just something which I think really lets you spend where you want to spend, and on those things that you value.
I think it's terrific. Is there anything else from the Money Smarts point of view that you'd want to share with the listeners in terms of any tips or tricks that in how you manage your money to get the sort of results that you're getting?
Well, one thing that my wife and I did when we set up the system was we like things to be ordered and in their place and this sort of thing, and so no surprises, we own a label maker. So we just printed out a short little label for each of our cards, and one of them's the payments card for the credit card. We've got the lifestyle card. My wife calls hers the fun coupons. So have some fun with it, and just make sure that you're using the right card for each expense, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. It's pretty simple in most respects, because technically the living and lifestyle should be a debit card, and then you've got the credit card. But the fact that you do that, I mean, in some cases, in our situation, we just use the one card, but we have the credit card linked to obviously credit. We have the primary account linked to savings, and we have the check account linked to the living and lifestyle. So it just means, I get around with my phone with one card in it, and that pretty much runs my life. So it's interesting how people use different sort of processes to do that. But the separation to build habits and labelling them is a great way to build that habit as you learn a new system.
Yeah, and it has has really helped because it's a visual reminder. You're clearly a minimalist, Ben, in that you've just got the one card on your phone, but plenty of people out there with a wallet full of cards, and they're like, oh, what does this one do? What does that one do? So, that's something that we've found useful, and something which also shows you how much use your cards get as well. So the credit card label is still nice and shiny, but the lifestyle one's looking pretty daggy these days.
Good
it's a bit more of a workout.
I was going to say, good. It's not the other way around. That's
always a good sign
very good
of
to hear.
Good money management.
Hey, Lindsay, at the end of the day, everything that we're doing, whether you're a property investor, a share investor, whatever it is to try and get a better future, is all about lifestyle design, right? Because for some people, their lifestyle design has to be shiny objects. For other people, it's about spending more time with their family and living in a location like the Gold Coast without having to worry about where they're going to earn their income. What does lifestyle design look for you? What's the end game? What are we shooting for?
So the lifestyle design aspect of it is, sunshine every day, live by the beach, holidays when we want it, that sort of thing. It's not necessarily the new cars and the massive house or anything. It's really the experiences that you can get with your loved ones. So when it comes to shiny objects and the like, there's a good quote that I like, which is buy utility and rent luxury. So if you want your fancy, beautiful car or whatever, maybe just rent that one when you go on your nice holiday. But to Paul Quithero's point, drive the cheapest car your ego can afford. So
yeah, I love it.
That sort of thing.
Well, it's a good point because you think about the people who have boats. They use it, 6-8 weekends a year.
Yeah.
People who've got fast cars, they might use it once or twice a month. It makes just terrific sense. But if you bring it down to not even luxuries, it's, well, to a certain extent, but holiday houses. When people actually do the maths of owning their own holiday house versus renting someone else's for a couple of weeks and having the flexibility to rent it in a different location the following year, the maths looks pretty grim when you want to own it versus use it. So I think that's good. I like it.
So Lindsay, you've obviously developed a plan. Talk us through some of the milestones in that plan and what you're trying to achieve in regards to, so there's lifestyle design in there, the big rocks are in the jar in there, and there's also financial piece at the end of that. So what does that look like for you in regards to each of those milestones? I mean, how many kids are we going to have? What sort of number of properties are we going to buy? How long are we rentvesting? When do we buy our principal home? Talk us through that journey for us.
Yes, certainly. The plan for us is really fairly straightforward. It includes a PPR and then 4 investment properties. So given that I've already got the Wollongong investment, that means that there's only 3 more investment purchases and the principal place of residence. So to bring things back a bit, the principal place of residence will be on the Gold Coast. That's not something that we're planning to purchase in the first 5 minutes of being there. The plan is to find work, get up there, and then probably rent for 6 to 12 months to understand the areas a bit more, to choose where we want to end up, and then purchase probably this time next year, I would say, something around that. So probably a 12-month lead time before purchasing the principal place of residence. And by then, chances are, or with a bit of luck, we'll have maybe number 2, and that's probably where we'll be capping out on the kid front. So hoping for 2 children, and then,
Lindsay, was that always the plan for you to have 2 kids, or did projecting your financial future play a part in determining whether it was 2, 3, or 4?
No, so that was a decision that my wife and I had come to prior to putting the plan together formally through yourselves, and that doesn't mean that there weren't other options prior to that discussion, but I think we landed on 2 fairly amicably, and so it wasn't really a case of we want 10 kids and we want to retire in 5 years. So it was a fairly measured approach, I guess. But yeah, 2 kids is the plan. The principal place of residence on the Gold Coast in another 12 months or so, and then look to then continue the investment journey once that PPR is taken care of.
Beautiful. So then we basically grab those 3. So what sort of passive income are you targeting, and sort of by what age are you looking at? Yes, we introduced you as 33 earlier. So what sort of time frame have we got for this plan to effectively develop itself out?
Yeah, so the plan is very much along the lines of your first book, the $100,000 or
$2,000 a week. Great.
Yep. So that's the plan, and the retirement ages will be, the timeline is really in the next 22 years, I think it is. Mm-hmm. So I'll be about 55 by the time the retirement kicks in.
Beautiful.
And
that's a good news story, Lindsay, because a lot of people are looking down the barrel of retirement being 70, right? And you've done it at 55. That's a good news story.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, life is going to throw up challenges. There's going to be opportunities. There's the income story that we need to hit when we move to the Gold Coast. But the point is, you've got a roadmap, right? And there's going to be potentially a couple of detours and some slowing down and some speeding up sections along that, some overtaking lanes and some roadworks that are going to take place.
Oh, how's your analogy?
So I think from that point of view, but you know your destination, right? And so if you've still got your eye on the prize, you're still going to be able to hit somewhere around that target, and that's the most important thing of planning to become what you plan to become.
And the important part about your roadmap, Ben, is make sure you're in a car that the cheapest one your ego can afford.
Exactly. All right, if you want to go fast, just hire that for the weekend.
Correct. I like it.
That's it. Yeah.
Hey, last one for me, Lindsay, is how does it feel to be able to, we talked about 55, Ben obviously talked about, there's a bit of reality in between now and then, but the fact that you only need 4 investment properties to achieve $2,000 a week by the age of 55, when a lot of people, often think it's got to be 10, 20, renovate, flip, all those sorts of things. Does that provide peace? Does that provide anxiety, the fact that the 4 in number?
Yeah, it does actually. When I first started looking into property investment and the like, it was really thinking, how many of these do you really need? And I wasn't truly aware of the maths and all of the stuff that go behind how simple it can be, in that you only need a couple. So I think there's probably a lot of investors out there that just think about the next one. And so they think, if I get this one, then that gets X amount. But then
what's the end game?
What's next?
Yeah.
And to really map it out for the next 20 odd years and say, well, all you need to do is buy only another 3 because you've already got 1. That makes it so much simpler, and it's like a big weight off your shoulders. You're like, is it time to buy again? No, it's not until next year. Okay, cool. Don't worry about it.
Well, you know what the best part about that, Lindsay, is your secret sauce, whether you knew it or not, and the reason why you've got such a great retirement target age is that you bought your first property at 25, 26 years of age, right? So 2011, if I'm doing the math right, it's roughly rolling out around that sort of time frame. So you got on the property ladder. It was a principal home for you. You're going to, technically you're rent vesting now because you're not living in that home. Over time, you're going to pivot to a big rock in the jar of getting that family home and then a couple more. But that heavy lifting that you did early on, and obviously buying in Wollongong, where the market has enjoyed some very, very strong growth, has set you up beyond what most people can comprehend in such a short period of time. So, kudos to you and to Alex for being disciplined to get in early, because that does a lot of the heavy lifting. So any of the listeners out there who are young, here's a perfect example. At the time Lindsay bought that by yourself, so Alex may have been a girlfriend on the scene, not sure, but over time you've been able to consolidate that, and that's your launch pad for your property strategy moving forward. So again, kudos to both of you for doing all the simple things. And I reckon this is a great summation for our summer series, right? In the sense that there's 2 pillars here that you have nailed. The first one, money management.
Yes.
And money behaviour and money habits. And then the second one is acting on that insight and effectively taking action to put your first rock in the jar, which is your first investment property, and it's set you up to now design your lifestyle, and that's going to look like, you know, being on the Gold Coast and enjoying some time with family and your children as you grow, and executing on 3 other properties over the course of the next 20 years. It can be that simple. It can be that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, terrific. How does that feel to hear that, Lindsay?
Yeah, it's pretty uplifting. I think if you could see me in the chair, I got the back straight up and big smile on my face. So,
I thought you were going to say back's laid back, the legs are up on the desk.
Yeah, hands behind the head, love it. So, thank you so much for bringing it home for us on our summer series, Lindsay. This is the final one in our summer series. It's had so much, and I think that what you provided today really, as Ben said, provides a lot of summary around what can be achievable, and without having to really extend yourself and have a portfolio of hundreds and hundreds of properties. It can be done with a principal place of residence and 4 investment properties.
And Gold Coast, so probably average household incomes, combined maybe a little bit high, but not without the reach of most Australians in terms of what income that's going to be the story for them to drive that portfolio.
With that in mind, Lindsay, we thank you for coming on to the Property Couch. We certainly we appreciate you being transparent. It's actually doing a couple of things, as Ben said, but the other thing is it's modelling what it's like to talk about money and open up the conversation, which we started to do late last year and want to continue to do this year, to get people having dialogue and conversations around this stuff.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me and letting me tell my story.
Pleasure. No worries. Well, Ben, I must say that the summer series coming to a close. You opened it by saying you're a bit sad. How good has it been? Let's all right. I like when you get into character, mate. I do. I want to encourage it. But let's have a recap of some of the people that we spoke to on the summer series. Peter, the property professor Kulizos, Nerida Conisby, Pete Wargent, Tom Panos, Veronica Morgan, Stuart Weems, Jane Slack Smith, Margaret Lomas. That was just the experts in the field, Ben. But then we had some listeners, Ben, who were brave enough to come on. Jack Henderson. We had John Harthill. We had Jill Stewart. We had Fiona Bankston. We had Jordan Bill. And of course, we had Lindsay. So that is an epic summer.
Well, we hope
couch.
We hope that people have got some motivation. It's the new year. This is the time to take action, Bryce. Probably a good time for a new segue.
Yes.
If I had one, but I don't.
You don't.
So I'll go to my proven one.
You'll go to your proven one, but before you get there, Ben, we talked today, Lindsay,
Yes.
about money management, how
Yes.
we would rate ourselves. So we want to straighten everyone up. To be a good money manager is to follow process, not by how much you got at the end of the month.
Yep.
So if you want to follow a good process, we very rarely do this, Ben, but I'm going to do a book plug.
Okay.
Because we're going to say Make Money Simple Again goes through the steps on how to implement what it was that Lindsay and our guest prior have spoken about, so that you can automate your money, follow the rules, and trap more surplus. And because this is the end of January, Ben, everyone's maybe got their New Year's in the shadows of their
Yes,
New Year's resolutions.
agreed.
Maybe starting the gym, car park start getting a bit thinner at the end of January, early February.
Motivation.
So if your motivation is waning in terms of money management, Ben, now is the time. I also have a link to show you where to go and buy the book. We make very little from books.
20% off.
So we'll give you a discount as part of our community. We want to get it in your
TPC20
hands.
is the code. TPC20.
Mate, you've turned over a new leaf, mate.
Well, that's the same for the old book.
Oh,
so when you say it enough times, I actually can remember.
Well, I normally throw to you. You normally have a pause.
Yeah.
You look to the right, so I can see you thinking.
I know what's the code?
So that was the plug, Ben.
Yeah, 100 tips, Bryce. 100 money tips. It is the manual to run the online platform. So I'll also say to people, if you're not quite sure on the book yet and you want to set it up, go straight to the platform, right? Go thepropertycouch.com.au/financial peace and get on the platform. We've got thousands of people on our Money Smarts platforms. So it's really important. They are making transformational change, just like Lindsay did. At the end of last year, I went over to Perth and I did the picker thing. I had someone come up to me and said, 7-day float. Oh my God, amazing.
Hang on,
transformational.
Is that the 7-day float you heckled me about on episode 200 where you go, mate, is that all you got for your life hack? Is that the one you're talking about?
Something like that.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
You know, the weekly allowance. Once you work it out, you organise your money. What have I said? As soon as you start organising money on a rules-based system, you will be automatically a better money manager, if not a great money manager. And elite money management is basically adopting the whole system.
Ben, I want to say thank you to you for giving up your summer, coming onto the couch, hosting all these wonderful guests that I'm sure the community...
Returning serve, straight back at you.
And slight plug for me, Ben.
Tonight, yes. I should be doing this.
I said it at the top. Well, you would have forgotten, so I have to do my own self-promotion.
Do yourselves a favour. do yourselves a favour and check it out on the ABC tonight.
Molly might be listening.
Yeah, so...
Hey, can I say it'd be best for you to lead by example, for you to say right here, right now, you will be in front of the telly tonight at 8 p.m.
Have you got a copy on the DVD for me?
Mate, you got to lead from the front.
True, I'll be on. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll even do channel 20, which is high definition.
Okay.
Just because I know it's not really a baby face. Yeah, see, if I go in standard definition, I could, maybe there's that filter. But on the high definition, we both know, don't we, Ivis?
Mate,
we both know.
I will take both of your heckles as long as you both Ivis as well in front of the box tonight. It's on ABC. It's on ABC iView as well.
iView. You can download it on your on demand.
Help make my episode one of the best rated ones. I'm in Toowoomba. It is epic. Yeah. I've got to tell you a little sneak peek, Ben.
Okay.
I see a video. I see a property.
A video of a property, or you're there, aren't you? Did they sort of...
Jeez, you two are pack hunters, right? I like it.
We're just excited
the way you two stick together is brilliant. So, do you remember when we interviewed Jordan Bill?
Yes.
On the summer series,
Ben? Earlier.
I actually see the property that he was very interested...
Close to buying.
Up on a hill with a 300-degree view, Ben, on tonight's episode. If that's not a tease, I don't know what it is.
There it is. So check it out. Tonight, 8 o'clock, Auntie, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Bryce Holdaway with his world premiere episode of Escape from the City.
And for the three of you that are still hung around until the end of this episode, we apologise for what's going on here. But Ben, until February, Ben, until February.
Oh yes. Oh, until February. Wait a minute. That's for the sadness of the summer series, Luke. Knowledge is empowering, Bryce. So is money as well.
Money's empowering.
Knowledge is empowering, but only if you act on it.
See you next month, folks. Want more great content from the Property Couch? If you haven't had a chance to go back to the foundational episodes, we got good news for you. Go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20 and check out the free binge guide, which gives you the insights you need from the first 20 episodes, where we unpack the foundational pillars of the Insider's Guide to Property, Finance and Money Management. It's completely free and available now.